Hello there ladies and gentlemen, Dan here for RWBY reviewing and analysing once more as this Thursday it's dance time at Beacon with Burning the Candle. First things first, spoiler warning as per usual, this is a dance so behave yourselves so no complaints or Glinda will throw you out. We open on Team RWBY -1 Faunist as they're setting up the room for the dance. RWBY isn't feeling the mood though, as with her worrying over Blake and her not coming is putting her in a bit of a downer mood herself. Sun and Neptune decide to pop in, and after a quick bit of chatter between Mr. Fantastic Baby and the Ice Queen, Sun voices his own worries over Blake, as well as dropping the info that he grew up in Vacuo, but currently lives in Mistral, which is where Neptune is from. The RWBY girls update him on Blake's current situation, but Yang feels confident that she can change that, as we cut forward to the girl in question knee-deep in I assume some research on the White Fang in the library. And then cue the laser pointer, which I must say I was laughing hard at this scene. I think it's the first time that they really ran with a joke around Blake being a cat, so the idea of Blake being distracted by a red laser dot flying around like many a cat often does is just charmingly funny to me, though it might be just Blake is more frustrated with the dot than interested in it. It works either way, as Blake gets pulled away from her search into the culprit Yang, who drags her off to chat. Surprise man service now with Ren's impersonation of the old Spice Guy, and sporting some samurai shampoo, before he himself gets dragged away by Jaune. The blonde boy is at his wit's end over the situation with Weiss, as we finally see the depths of how he feels for her. Well, that and the fact that he not only can't seem to grasp that Ren might be feeling a bit underdressed for this conversation, but also that he assumed that Ren and Nora, who was rather adorable in this scene as well, were a couple. Which I've got to say, sure you're not together, Nora. I will admit though, as I haven't before, I love the relationship that Nora and Ren have. If it ends up romantic or not, I still think that they've got one of the strongest and most entertaining relationships of the show, and the fact that Nora can act flustered and is sporting some Rooster Teeth merch is rather entertaining to see. Back to Jaune though, and he finally spills all on why exactly he likes Weiss so much. That even though he admits she is a little cold, he's infatuated with her and her strong points, and that he feels that it isn't so much a crush, but that he's head over heels in love with her. Yet he's majorly down about the fact that Weiss won't even give him a chance to be taken seriously to even get a chance to tell her this. I know that Jaune's taken some flack from some of the fanbase for his affections toward Weiss and how Pyrrha fits into all this, but I've got to say that I completely understand Jaune, especially since I myself have been in similar shoes. Plus again, he's a teenager, someone who again like me has major confidence issues, and many people that age, boy or girl, make dumb decisions when it comes to love, and crushes and similar. Sometimes it makes us blind, and sometimes we do stupid things thinking it would help them find love. True, he's blind as a bat when it comes with the fact that another wonderful girl is actually willing to give him time and does like him a lot, but still, Jaune has reasons for his actions, at least in my eyes. Anyway, I'm ranting a little, and in the end, Jaune's spouting of how he feels about Weiss isn't heard by just Ren and Nora, but also Pyrrha, who tells him to just be honest and go tell Weiss exactly what he just said. No cheesy pickup lines, no serenades, just be honest with how he feels and tell her, regardless of the outcome, and that if he truly feels that way, he won't mess it up when he confesses. It seems to be the right words for Jaune as he heads on out, leaving Pyrrha to accept the fact that she might have just given Jaune away, and yet did so feeling that it was best for him, putting her own happiness aside for his own. Earning a rather mature quip from Nora that she should really practice what she preaches about her own feelings. Again, it's another frustrating scene for the viewer like last week, seeing these two's relationship take so many twists and turns, but it's also very emotional and gripping, at least to me, and it's again Pyrrha being a really strong character. Proof that this show isn't just about badass boys and girls kicking asses. And now, onto what this episode will most likely be remembered for. As in a classroom that Yang has dragged Blake into, she tries her hand at trying to snap some sense into her, as well as giving us some answers to some questions that many of us have wanted to know. Firstly, we find out that Yang and RWBY grew up on the island of Patch, which is just off the coast of Vale and where Signal Academy is. On top of that, both of their parents were huntsmen, their dad being a teacher at Signal, and that their mum was a huntress who did frequent missions travelling everywhere. This being the infamous Summer Rose, that the fandom has been dying to know more of. According to Yang, she was a real supermom, but sadly, she left for a mission one day and never came back, which I assume would mean alongside the grave seen in the first opening and the red trailer, that she sadly passed away. This death of course proving sad to both RWBY and Yang, but RWBY was too young to fully grasp it, compared to the older Yang at that time. It also affected their dad hard too, as Yang mentions that he shut down and presumably became an emotional wreck. Especially given the fact that his Summer's death wasn't the first time that he lost a loved one, but it was his second. Yep, the first time for true confirmation in the show about RWBY and Yang's family is revealed, as Summer was RWBY's birth mum and Yang's step-mum, as Yang's birth mother was her dad's first love, and sadly the first love that he lost. Summer Rose, Yang's mum, their dad, and Crow were on the same team, and just after Yang was born, Yang's mum left her with her husband and vanished, with her current whereabouts or whether or not she's dead or alive being currently unknown. This in of itself reveals at last who it was that Yang was looking for in the yellow trailer. It was her birth mum. Yang has been wanting to know where she is and why she left her ever since she was a little kid, and this search almost cost her big. Cut to an absolutely wonderful animation switch to a sort of moving chalk style as we see what Yang describes. As a young girl sporting pigtails, she one day found something that she felt would help her find her mother. So, one night when their dad was away, she placed a toddler RWBY into a wagon and set off to find her, coming to an abandoned hut in the middle of some worn-out woods, only to find not answers, but a pack of grim Beowulfs, who lunged at the then tired and scared little girl and a sleeping RWBY, who would have been grim food if not for their Uncle Crow saving them. Back to present day, and Blake feels sad for what happened to Yang in the past, but feels her situation is different. That she's not looking for answers, she's looking to stop the White Fang and Torchwick from doing any more harm, and that unlike Yang was in the past, she's not a young child. Yang tells her that this isn't her trying to get Blake to stop, as she herself hasn't given up on the search for her mother. Instead, she's not letting that search be the sole purpose of her life, and her only focus, as she knows it can only bring harm and risk to herself and others. Blake still doesn't get it and feels that she has to do this as she feels she's the only one who can. Yet Yang points out that if Torchwick were to come in right now, she's in no state to fight him. Some pushing and shoving follows before Yang drives home her point with a hug, telling Blake that she understands, and again she doesn't want it to stop, knowing how much this means to her, but that she needs to pace herself and not let this hunt control her life, for her sake and for those she cares about, leaving the conversation with one last attempt to get her to rest and come to the dance, even offering saving a dance. This scene, oh man, this scene was something else. Before, I was smiling and laughing at the antics of the opening banter, the laser pointer, and the quips from Joe and John's chat with Ren, but here, I was just silent and listening to every single word. This is hands down one of the best scenes in the series for me, as not only do we get some much needed answers to questions that many have wanted in terms of Yang and RWBY's past, the mystery of Summer Rose and what Yang was looking for, but also Yang finally gets the development that she's been needing for so long. This was her time to shine, and the RWBY team showed her off spectacularly with an excellent chalk animated backstory to the golden performance from Barbara. And now Yang finally has had a chance to cement herself in the show, and not just be rolling with the punches of the other characters and their own developments. Plus, they tied in her backstory remarkably well into Blake's own development, which in of itself brought some more wonderful work. We wanted Yang's moment, and it made sense to tie her backstory with Blake's current situation to really hammer in the point of Blake having to take it slow. And whether you see the two as friends or as your Bumblebee shipper, this also did a fantastic job building up the two girls' relationship. I said it will be what the episode will be known for, and I mean it. But oh, the episode did not end there, folks, as now Jaune is shown heading off to confess to Weiss, sporting a rather goofy smile here, only to come across said girl about to ask out Neptune. I said last week that I hoped the whole Jaune's attempts with Weiss failing was at its end, and it seems like it might be the case, and the final nail in the coffin for Jaune's feelings, as he drops his flower and heads back crushed. Though the interesting note is, while we did hear Weiss ask Neptune to the dance, we didn't hear his reply. The dance itself is next up now, as we see the characters all suited up and looking rather dapper. Yang with a surprisingly simple white flowing dress, RWBY looking really cute even with her struggling with the quote, lady stilts, and Weiss who looks elegant as expected for her. Outside, we see Sun did make some attempt to look presentable, that being his usual attire and only a greyish version of his top with some buttons done up and a tie. Sun may be dreading the dance, but after a nice throwback to his quip about Blake looking better without the bow on, Blake herself appears looking stunning and well rested, joining the monkey boy on the walk to the dance, mentioning that while they are going together, she does have the first dance booked. Poor RWBY is still struggling some more with her attire as Ozpin pops in to chat and drops some wisdom over dancing and that the moments like these are ones to remember, and why you shouldn't always be on the battlefield. Though let's hope it's good memories come the end of the dance, as 2 late entries appear to close off the episode and leave the rest of the dance for next time. The appearance of Emerald and Mercury. That time now for my personal negatives and positives for the episode. For the negatives, I've only honestly got one nitpick, with the scene of Weiss asking out Neptune to the dance. It's not a bad moment, and I do think that they purposely ended it short of Neptune's answer for a reason, especially since we don't see him later on in the dance, but the animation felt a little bit weird here. I believe the scene was mocapped, at least judging by the animations, and it's not so much that the animation is off, more so the positioning. Why was Neptune just standing around in the middle of the night out here? It would have been better in my eyes if Neptune was walking to the school for this scene, as otherwise it just looks like a bit of an odd setup just for the situation, especially since he's just standing looking at the wall until Weiss calls for him. Positives are again the biggest list of the two. This episode had no action in it, so it had to have strong character moments, humor, and growth to make the episode go smoothly. And in the end, it didn't just go smoothly, it went top quality. The humor, while maybe not the greatest of the series, still held up strong, but the real muscle of the episode was definitely with its characters. Case in point, I really enjoyed the Team Juniper moments here. It's often always fun and rewarding seeing what these four get up to, and there was some really well done work in showing off just how tight of a group they are right now. We've seen them all chat as a unit in the past, but here we see how aware Nora and most likely Ren are of Pyrrha's feelings for Jaune, how even with little knowing of Ren, Jaune still trusts him enough with his personal issues, and of course how Pyrrha and Jaune's relationship continues on. Flashing forward to the dance, I also liked how not only do we get the characters in some more new attires, which, like the stakeout gear, helps add some more realism to the world, but I like the fact that the dance in of itself isn't going to be limited to one episode, as it's clear that a lot will go down at this event, and it being in more than one episode is a plus. But of course, most of the praise revolves around Yang, finally getting a chance to shine. It was a great idea how they used not just Yang and RWBY's backstory to help out Blake snap out of that rut she was in a believable way, but also how they gave us some much needed info on RWBY and Yang in a way that didn't feel forced. Topping off with some much deserved voice acting props to Miss Barbara Dunkelman in showing off this new side of Yang very well. So that's my rundown, and it's looking like next week we'll see possibly an explosive end to the dance, one way or another. We've still got the arrival of Team Juniper as well as some maybe other characters appearing, as well as no doubt Mercury and Emerald being up to no good. But the volume has been hitting some great run of episode qualities lately, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with the finale of the dance. How did this episode make you feel though? Were you happy with the events of Yang's chat with Blake? Do you like Jaune's actions or not? Comment away down below and I'll be sure to check them out as the next episode waiting begins. Till then, Peace out and happy dancing.